Right, so good morning, Seb. It is Friday the 25th of July. We found out about the draft legislation on Monday. How's your week been?
Busy week. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a little bit intense. We even haven't reacted online just yet. Like we preparing like a big analysis that we're going to release next week on everything, all points, and some consequences as well for recruitment agency. But I'm sure we're going to cover that right now. But yeah, it's been a busy week. But I understand it's probably have been a bit busy for you as well, guys, at Parasol, right?
It has. It has. I mean, we have obviously been in conversations with various parties throughout this process. We were hopeful of what we were going to hear on Monday. I think from our initial analysis, it is kind of what we expected. But similar to yourselves, we've put out some initial responses, but we've limited that because we really need to understand the detail and experience of this, as you'll know, is that starts to come out through conversations and over a couple of weeks, basically. So you say that you've sat back, you've been busy, you've taken everything in. What are your initial thoughts then, Seb?
So I think that the initial feedback and what you've just said is absolutely right. I don't think there is a lot of surprises. The stakeholder meeting that HMRC organized on the 12th of June was already saying what they intended to do, which was to create this joint and several liability. Is good to see it on paper and to understand exactly, and to see as well how broad it is, because it's not only joint and several liabilities. There is other notion in it that are quite important to understand. But the initial thought is really the fact that the game is going to change for recruitment agency and for supply chain and MSP as well. The fact that it's a strict liability, and the fact that there is kind of no due diligence process that would protect the relevant party when they work with umbrella company, really mean that recruitment agency will be and will need to do quite a lot more and understand and have the confidence that the umbrella company accurately calculated taxes, disclosed to HMRC and paid to HMRC. So I think there is a lot more that are going to happen over the next 8 months. But I think that recruitment agency will need to adjust at 100% and really understand how the umbrella company operate a lot more than what they understand today, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, and understand. So, I mean, you mentioned joint and several liability there. That was obviously something that was confirmed fully confirmed on Monday, but was mentioned as the direction of travel in June. What is that? What, in your mind, what is joint and several liability?
But joint and several liability is pretty simple, is that HMRC gives themselves the power to effectively go to see the recruitment agency, the umbrella company, or both party for part of the full amounts, pretty much as soon as taxes haven't been paid to HMRC. So that means that there is literally a link that is a lot stronger. So it's not a debt transfer. It's not like there is a debt and something need to happen for the debt to go to the recruitment agency. Is literally the recruitment agency and jointly and severally liable with the umbrella company from day one if taxes are not paid to HMRC. So is a really pretty powerful piece of legislation that's mean that recruitment agency need to be ready for April 2026.
It is a bit of a game changer, isn't it, in that respect? And some of the conversations we've had this week, it's still being kind of interpreted as a transfer of debt. And it isn't. A number of times I had to say this isn't a transfer of debt. This allows HMRC to come to your door pretty much straight away with a P80 notification to say, we think you owe us this money. You've got a week to pay this, effectively. Not a long, drawn out, protracted investigation and inquiry of we can't get the money there, so we're going to come to you. This is pretty much bang straight in. We want that money, and that is completely different to what the industry has been used to, isn't it?
Absolutely. Like this is absolute difference. And again, just like we've been 15 minutes in and I'm going to repeat myself already, but like I think that is going to be a game changer because recruitment agency really need to understand the umbrella company they work with.
Yeah, no problem. So, I mean, part of the legislation, it talks about relevant parties, and again, there's some kind of, I think, confusion in and around who the relevant party is, and is everyone in the chain on the hook, if you like. What's your view on that relevant party? I think section 61's there, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. I think that there is different things. I think there is what is in the draft legislation and what is in the note alongside the draft legislation. And it's important to understand that this is a draft legislation. So all commentator and stakeholder are going to have the opportunity to go back to HMRC to clarify if there is anything that are missing or if there is anything that need more details, if you see what I mean. But in the notes, well, relevant party is pretty well defined in the way that this is the recruitment agencies that work with effectively the umbrella company. In the supply chain, that is a bit more complex, where you have more recruitment agency in the top. It is the top agency. And when I say top agency, it doesn't have to be the agencies, literally the parties that have a contract with the end clients. So in the case that there is an MSP, a managed service provider, where the MSP will be effectively in the liabilities, the liability will be with them. And it's going to be very interesting to understand as well what MSP are doing moving forward and what decisions they are making to make sure that, well, it's not only the recruitment agencies they work with that is compliant, but it's literally 2 or 3 levels down the supply chain where they need to have comfort that if an umbrella company is effectively being engaged, what taxes have been actually calculated and paid to HMRC.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, one of the things that always kind of sticks in my head with, and it has this week, is that we have over the years we've conversed on these issues, and we've always kind of said, well, there's already pre-existing legislation here in terms of the Criminal Finance Act, that where the supply chain should be doing these kind of checks, but they haven't. Just kind of going back to the earlier point, this is where the game's changed, hasn't it? Effectively.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in terms of this isn't a let's wait and see if they come along. This is them looking at the submissions that are going in, and the question I've got really is coming on this, and being able to determine where they think money has gone missing. From your perspective, they're talking about implementing IT systems. Do you think that is to be able to find these missing funds much more quickly?
Yeah, I think that this is what is intended behind. I just think it's going to take a bit of time. I think there is always a little bit of time between when you design something or when you imagine something and when you actually build it, and after it needs to work and after you need to have action on the back of that. So as you know, building tech is just complicated. It's not something that you do pretty much like over there. And I know we all had a conversation with a friend in the pub saying like, oh, we could do this app and that would be amazing. And that is a fun part. But when you start designing, creating the system and actually using it and making it work, this is where it's very complicated. So I understand what they intend to do. I think it's good, but I just think it's going to be a bit of the delay between like the moment that's where it's going to be designed and where it's actually going to work perfectly and it's going to be efficient as well.
So do you think that those changes will be in place by next April, or do you think that was something that comes after that?
It really depends where they are in terms of like design and development and things like that. I don't have this information at the moment, but like if it's in April would be great, but I don't have more information than that.
No problem. So, this is a call to arms for everyone in the industry. There's a view in terms of what umbrella companies need to do, what agencies need to do. It'd be really, really good to get your thoughts and understanding from, because you've kind of lived in both worlds, haven't you? You come from a recruitment background. If you were still there and you were facing these challenges, what would be the things that you want to be doing straight away, Seb?
Well, I think that before joint and several liability, and sometimes it's something that is forgotten, but you already had quite a few legislation that was put liability on the recruitment agency. Obviously, everyone know about the Criminal Finances Act, but you also have the onshore and offshore intermediary legislation. So in the case that recruitment agency, and this is a liability that literally exists today, not in April 2026. If a recruitment agency work with a UK company, a UK umbrella company, and the fund FNL offshore, and the offshore organization process the pay and doesn't pay taxes to HMRC, the income tax and IC and employer and I liability are with the employment business, are with the recruitment agency. And this is something that pretty much exists today. So I believe that processes in place like needed to be there already. To answer your question, I think that on the umbrella side, well, from my point of view, and this is for that we started SafeRec as well, and we created on one side the SafeRec certification and on the other side the SaaS platform for recruitment agency. Is that, and this is what I say to umbrella company I'm talking to is, and it's true in every single commercial relationship, is the problem of your client are your problem. And this is what organizations are doing. Every single organization exists if they are successful and if they are client because they solve one of their clients' problem. If you go back early 2000, the problem that umbrella company was solving is the fact that they were employing workers and processing payroll. In 2026, they will be an extra line, and actually not in 2026 even right now, which is we need to prove to our clients that taxes have been accurately calculated, disclosed to HMRC and paid to HMRC. So I think that it's going to be very complicated for umbrella company to have a long-term plan without being able to prove these three things: that tax calculation, remitted to HMRC, and paid to HMRC. And these three things need to be proved to reassure the client that they can work with them. So I really believe that for umbrella companies, they have a huge role to play into making sure that where they engage with recruitment agencies, they can prove that they are compliant. And this concept of proof, again, it's important today, but will be absolutely critical and essential in April 2026. There is no doubt about that. On the other side, for recruitment agencies, they need to work with umbrella companies that prove that to them. And the proof can't come from the umbrella company itself. As you know, I used to work as a sales director in a recruitment agency a few years back, and this is what led me to start SafeRec. And this is what I used to say: 100% umbrella companies say 100% of the time they are 100% compliant. It never happened that you have an umbrella companies that tell you we're about 98% compliant, but you know.
The 2% doesn't matter.
Sometimes, we just cross the line, but only sometimes. That just never happened. So, like the logic here for recruitment agency is really to be in a logic of trust, but verify and get the proof that taxes have been accurately calculated and obviously again paid to HMRC.
Okay. So, in your mind, you know, I know it's only 5 days in. You've fully had a look and reread the draft legislation, etc. At this stage, do you think that there's anything that has not been picked up by the industry at large? Because lots of people have responded, lots of people have had their say in that respect. Is there anything, or is there one thing that you think they've not really considered this yet?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, again, have impact today under POTAS and is going to have under this draft legislation, and I don't think I've read that anywhere, and this is what we're going to have in our analysis that we will publish on our website, is also in terms of like merger and acquisition. What is happening? You are in 2028 and you will sell your recruitment agency business. You are a recruitment agency today and you want an exit strategy in the next 5 years. What the organization that buy your business, that acquire your business, what are they going to request from you exactly? And just really do believe that, and that's the case today. We had example of that when if you are an organization that buy a recruitment agency and the recruitment agency can't prove that they were not promoting tax avoidance, well, they use that as leverage to just reduce the value of the business. In 2028,
drive down the price, basically, don't they? If you've not
100%,
it's going to drive down the price.
And in 2028, I think it might be, can you prove to me that the umbrella company you used have paid taxes to HMRC for every single one of your workers. And the reality of recruitment agency, if you take the stats from the REC, is over 70% of recruitment agency are micro businesses with less than 10 employees. And the reality is, I don't believe there is a lot of small and SMEs recruitment agency that are in a situation that they are not looking for an exit strategy at some point. I don't know a lot of recruitment owner, again, of small and SMEs that say, I want to do recruitment until I'm 80 years old. So the question is, at some point, well, they will need an exit strategy. And the problem with this liability, well, it's not something that you can prep for within a year. It's something that you need to start today and you just like do over a certain amount of time. And the exit strategy for recruitment agency and for owner of recruitment agencies is really the biggest payday of their life. So it's something that matter. They work years to achieve that. And this joint and several liability is 100% going to impact that. So it's very important that every single recruitment agency that are looking for an exit strategy in the next 5, 10 years, even beyond that, they're already thinking today, how can I prove to the party I'm going to sell to that there is absolutely no tax liability and I can give proof that taxes for all our workers over time have been paid to HMRC.
No, I fully agree there. The other point I'd like to get your view on, Seb, is you wrote a very good report that was submitted to the policymakers, and within there, it breaks down the market, and you talked about kind of candidate-led issues, i.e., the recruitment business not necessarily having the option other than to work with these because the candidate was so important to the end client, etc. That kind of changes the dial a little bit for those agencies now, gives them a bit of leverage. What would be your kind of recommendation to them at this stage?
Well, I think that the industry you're talking about is probably the healthcare industry, which this is really like where this type of problem is really prevalent, and not only because it's a candidate-driven market, but also because of how critical the job that they are doing is. So is what I say all the time, if you lead a local authority and you have like a social work team that's literally doing child protection, well, it's very complicated to just like argue that you're not going to recruit people because of the umbrella company. So the reality here really is, well, MSP and recruitment agency, and you're absolutely right to say that the game is absolutely changing for them in the way that, well, it's going to be very interesting to see how the supply chain reacts when the worker got a lot of bargaining power and what is happening exactly. Today, the reality I was in when I worked in recruitment a few years ago, it was really having conversation with sometimes workers that say, I need to work with this umbrella company, or I'm just going to call another recruitment agency. And in some cases, not all the time, but you had obviously the end client or the MSPs that were accepting that. It's going to be very interesting to see how MSP and end client are reacting to that, and exactly what they are doing. Are they going to let that happen, or are they going to say absolutely not? Really have a look on the umbrella companies that's being used. Are they going to ask proof, etc., etc.? But in healthcare, I think that the interesting part is most of the time you have MSP on top, and they are going to be the one with liability. So I can't see how they won't be a much deeper level of control on their supply chain to really understand what the recruitment agency are doing, a lot more deeper than what is in place today. I have no doubt that is going to change over the next 8 months. And it's also going to be interesting to see how recruitment agencies that have been compliant for the past 6-7 years and lost business because they lost compliance, how they're going to leverage that with MSP. This is why now we need to be in your tier 1 recruitment agency in your supply chain, because we've been doing right for the past 5 years, and now you need that we do it right because you are in the chain of liability, Mr. MSP, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. I've had varying conversations this week with organisations, and some have been either side of that. So some have been in that situation where they have not had the leverage. They've had to take on that risk, and they want to understand what they can do. What they should be doing about that. One particular call where they were completely aware of the risk, I would say, and use that to their advantage because they were able to drive down margins to the client. And I suppose that's my view, is that those organisations, the latter there, will now have to go back to the MSP or to the client and say, we're going to have to charge you more because we can no longer, and they're not going to obviously say this, we can no longer take that £1,000 from that company as a referral fee or the kickback each week that we were getting because we can't use those. And that's the difference. And I really do think, and giving you a point there on the compliant companies, where they have got a history of compliance, last 5 or 6 years, this is the day that they've been waiting for, isn't it? This is the leveling of the playing field for them, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no doubt about that. I think there is the next few months. I really believe is going to be very interesting, and I think that recruitment agency today see that as a pain, and obviously it's a pain for them because they have more liability. But I really believe that this is something that they can leverage commercially as well. Yeah. Especially if they've been making the right decision for the past few years. I have no doubt about that. And I think what is important to understand, because we were talking about candidate-driven markets, and you also have on the other side of the continuum, because obviously it's not black and white, but you got like a job-driven market, and you got other problem of compliance. And here is more what end clients have been pushing. For an example, not increasing the assignment rates enough to support the increase in employer costs or increase the national minimum wage. So recruitment agency and MSPs that work with their end clients, because they're in the chain of liability now, I really believe it's going to be, as you say, complicated for them to stay in the setup that they are today, and they're probably going to push forward and say, no, I'm really sorry, the rates need to be that, and that's a minimum to pay the worker over the national minimum wage and cover all the employment costs. I think that the umbrella industry is at maturity. It's been there for over 20 years, 25 years actually. And if the joint and several liability came before IR35, I think we would be in the different world, but we're in this world where it came after. And obviously you had a lot of consolidation, a lot of habits, a lot of relationship rules, unwritten rules between umbrella company and recruitment agencies that are just here today. And I have no doubt that some of them will be adjusted. I can't see how it can just like stay exactly the same way as it is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And going back to your point there, Sab, because it's interesting, you talk about the jobs driven and end clients not necessarily wanting to increase rates. One of the things that kind of happens there is that it proliferates these type of contrived schemes, but it also forces things like misclassification of workers, people being put into CIS that really shouldn't be there to avoid having to pay those costs, etc. Part of the draft legislation, it talks about purported umbrellas, as you know, and the definition of being employed. How do you think that will potentially impact on CIS umbrella companies?
So just before to adjust what I've just said, when I say that the end client don't want to increase the rate, sometimes it's not just a desire, it's just like a commercial reality that we have to deal with, and obviously we have like all this increase of costs, and the debate is not is it right or wrong. That's not the debate here, but the reality is, when you increase the national minimum wage and you increase the employer cost as much as it was in April this year, well, fundamentally, if you are an organization that use a temporary worker, well, your cost is just going to increase dramatically. So I think that sometimes there is that. On the issue of purported umbrella company, I really believe that On the CIS part, I think that it's going to be interesting to see exactly what the further analysis over the coming weeks are going to say exactly. I really do believe that the purpose of purported umbrella company is just to go beyond the umbrella company is an umbrella company.
Yeah.
What happened, we saw the case, again, it was in healthcare, but we saw the case of an umbrella company last year having a freezing order against them because what they were doing is getting the money from the umbrella company, pretending that the worker were being employed by them, providing fake payslip and fake RTI, and actually the worker were being paid into their limited company. So I think like this definition is to go a lot broader and to cover everything even when the umbrella company pretend to be an umbrella company and is actually not an umbrella company. And I really believe that the purpose of that, there is no doubt that, and this is for that the process work like that. And again, that this is a draft legislation. I have no doubt that there is a lot of comments that are going to be made to HMRC, and they're going to really be able to make changes to make sure that there is no unintended consequences. But quite frankly, when I read the draft legislation, I think my first reaction was, okay. And I read it again and I'm like, okay. And I think they've done a pretty good job at covering
I would agree. I would
covering
agree.
quite a lot of things.
Yeah, and I do probably envisage a kind of tightening of the language that's used there, just to be a bit more, to clarify it a little bit more. But in its first iteration, it is quite cute, isn't it? This is, we're coming after you basically. We're going to find you, and we're keeping it broad as we can to do that effectively. So no, it'd be interesting to see. I'd like to see some more kind of commentary on that and narrative that comes out in the coming weeks, and hopefully when we next speak, we can kind of touch on that a little bit more as well. So, conscious of your time and how busy you are. So, I mean, last couple of points for me would be what's next effectively. What we waiting for with this?
What is next is basically the informal consultation that where stakeholder can really literally engage with HMRC to just like give their point of view. I think there is basically what's going to happen here. I think it's important to manage people expectation, like when the draft legislation is written, like we're not going to, it's extremely unlikely, if not impossible, that they are going to do a 180 degrees and literally change that. I think that the process here is really to have like a more technical analysis, and again, it's changing the little things, but fundamentally is what's going to happen. So if recruitment agency are listening to our conversation and they believe it's not live just yet, well, it's going to be live. I mean, it's 99.99% sure that this is what's going to happen and that they need to act on that. So I think this is on the legislation. And I think what's next is, well, I really do believe that obviously we end of July, in August, people that are working, they 100% going to have a look at it. And I think that early this September, I really believe that recruitment agency are going to really look at exactly what do we do, and it's absolutely essential that recruitment agency just act today. 8 months is a very short amount of time, and especially the recruitment agencies that never really looked at their umbrella company and maybe were in the process of a tick box exercise, especially this one, they will be a process which is painful to just swap worker toward umbrella company, one umbrella company toward another. And if the umbrella companies that were paying their worker today were non-compliant and they need to move their worker toward an umbrella company that is compliant, well, the worker is likely to get less money in terms of net pay. So these conversations are always very painful conversation, and I really do believe that they need to start having this conversation and having a strategy in place literally yesterday.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Now, and just to finish off, the elephant in the room, okay, how can SafeRec help and support agencies throughout this process?
Thank you for asking the question. I appreciate it. What we designed with SafeRec is really the result of what I have experienced when I worked in recruitment, which was everything that was in the industry was reviewing pretty much everything about umbrella company, maybe 70% or 75% of an umbrella company, but the 25% that was not being checked was taxes. And if you look every single piece of legislation, and joint and several liability is exactly the same thing, the liability for recruitment agency come from taxes. Like how we work at SafeRec and what we've done with the SafeRec certification that we have for umbrella company is really to make sure that changing the paradigm in the way that when we audit an umbrella company, we don't audit the umbrella company for the umbrella company, but we audit the umbrella company for the recruitment and the supply chain, where 100% of the value proposition of what we create goes to effectively the recruitment agency and the supply chain. What we provide is two different pieces of information. Firstly, very similar to other accreditation, we do a legal review on the umbrella company on contract processes policies. The difference is that it results in a due diligence report available to recruitment agency. That is still important to protect their business against the Criminal Finances Act. So while due diligence doesn't matter really for joint and several liability, it's still important again, the Criminal Finances Act, because this legislation is still there. And on the other side, we send to recruitment agency every single month a monthly tax compliance report. This is something that we send, not something that's sent by the umbrella company. And this report effectively provide a list of all their workers that have been audited. And this report proved that taxes have been actually calculated on payslip. We cross-reference the payslip with RTI, so we prove that taxes have been accurately remitted and effectively disclosed to HMRC via RTI correctly. And every single month, we check virtually the HMRC tax account of the umbrella company to ensure that taxes have been paid to HMRC. We already have a solution that do exactly what the joint and several liability is, and the 7,500 recruitment agencies that receive our reports every single month are pretty much already protected against the Criminal Finances Act with a legal report, and again, the joint and several liability today and in April 2026, obviously, when it's going to become live, against this tax liability.
Fantastic. So basically, it does everything that an agency would need to cover off their liability.
Absolutely.
In your eyes.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
This is exactly that, and there is nothing that more than can be done, if you see what I mean, except literally having like a AI spy in the umbrella office or to spot the conversation or anything like that. Everything is basically like all solution is really to answer the pain point that I had when I worked in recruitment, and it's for that everything was designed is for the umbrella company's client, the recruitment agency or the MSP.
Yeah. No, and we've been speaking for many years on this, and that from day one I saw how well this was going to work and how well it will be needed eventually in the industry, and I think that time has now come. And kind of thank you for having the passion to bring that together, because one of your points you mentioned before is and I've said this already, if this happened 10 years ago, this industry probably would be finished, because there would be no way to support that effectively. What you've done, and there will be other kind of tech stacks and stuff that will come around that will allow just a complete see through the whole supply chain. All of that is for the right reasons, and it's the stuff that me and you are both passionate about, is making sure that the work is protected. Okay, no money's going missing effectively, and ultimately people are doing what they say they are doing. So thank you for that, and thank you for your time. I know, as I said, I know you're really busy, so I'll let you go and enjoy your weekend, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up in the next couple of weeks as well. Thanks so much, Seb.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, Seb.
Bye.